What if the funniest moment on the internet this week just accidentally revealed Cleveland's entire quarterback plan? That is the real question sitting underneath what everyone wrote off as just another piece of sibling chaos. Shedeur Sanders was live on camera, casually bringing up the Cleveland Browns, when Shilo Sanders hit that mute button so fast it looked like pure reflex. Not a glitch. Not a technical error. Family business getting handled in real time, in front of thousands of viewers, and the internet absolutely lost its mind. But while the comment sections were filling up with laughing emojis and meme edits, the actual story was hiding right underneath that mute button, and it has everything to do with Cleveland's quarterback future, Deion Sanders' public declaration, a front office playing long game chess, and a $230 million contract that nobody in the building wants to talk about out loud. Let's break down exactly what happened during that live stream, because the details matter more than the laugh. Shedeur Sanders was on camera, not just mentioning the Browns in passing, but openly entertaining the idea of linking up with his brother Shiloh in Cleveland. He was talking about showing up to Browns games, wearing the vibe, putting himself visibly inside that conversation. That is not random fan activity from a top draft prospect. That is a player who is deliberately positioning himself. That is intentional visibility, and in the modern NFL, intentional visibility from a quarterback prospect before the draft is a strategy, not a coincidence. What if the funniest moment on the internet this week just accidentally revealed Cleveland's entire quarterback plan? The moment Shiloh hit mute, the stream went quiet, but the message had already been sent. Shedeur was not stumbling through that conversation. He was steering it. NFL players have historically telegraphed their preferred destinations through social media activity, public appearances, and carefully placed public comments long before any official deal is made. LeBron James did it before leaving Cleveland the first time. Antonio Brown did it on his way out of Pittsburgh. Quarterbacks do it differently, more subtly, but the playbook is the same. You make yourself visible in the place you want to be, and you let the market respond. Shedeur is running that exact playbook, just louder and with better cameras. The real question that clip left hanging in the air is a simple one. If Shiloh had not hit that mute button, how much more of that conversation would the entire internet have heard? This is where the story shifts from entertaining to genuinely significant. Deion Sanders did not whisper his position on this. He did not imply it through body language or vague social media activity. He said, on record, that he would love to coach both of his sons again. That statement is not a father being casually supportive at a press conference. Deion Sanders is a proven football mind who took Colorado from irrelevance to a national conversation almost overnight. When a coach of that profile says he wants to coach his sons, that is a man who has already thought through the logistics. That is not dinner table talk. That is a declaration with football implications attached to it. He said, on record, that he would love to coach both of his sons again. The realistic path for Deion entering the NFL coaching landscape runs directly through wherever Shedeur lands. Cleveland has historically been one of the most unstable head coaching situations in professional football. The Browns have cycled through head coaches at a rate that would make most franchises uncomfortable. If Shedeur arrives, develops, and shows genuine promise inside Todd Monken's offensive system, the argument for bringing in the one coach who understands him at a deeper level than anyone else in the building becomes very difficult to dismiss. Yes, it sounds like a storyline from a sports drama. But stranger things have happened in Cleveland football, and most of them were not nearly this well organized. The Sanders family has never moved without a plan, and there is no reason to believe this situation is any different. While the Sanders family was generating headlines, Browns general manager Andrew Barry was doing what he does best, saying almost nothing and meaning everything. At the NFL Combine, a reporter asked Barry directly whether Cleveland could land a starting quarterback in free agency. His answer was one word, TBD. That single word was not confusion. That was a calculated non-answer from a front office executive who does not speak loosely. TBD was the professional way of saying, we are not spending significant money on a veteran quarterback, so stop waiting for that announcement, because it is not coming. His one-word answer, TBD. Then came free agency, and Cleveland did exactly what that one word promised. First wave, nothing at quarterback. Second wave, nothing at quarterback. Every other team in the league was making noise, signing veterans, trading for bridges, doing the visible work of addressing the position. The Browns stayed completely quiet. That silence was not organizational paralysis. That silence was the message. It told the rest of the league that Cleveland had already identified its plan and did not need the free agent market to execute it. Barry had the number 2 overall pick, prime real estate, and instead of forcing a selection, he traded back to 5, collected extra assets, and still walked away with Travis Hunter. That move from last year's draft is the clearest window into how Barry operates. He had picked 2, one of the most valuable pieces of real estate in professional sports, and instead of reacting to external pressure, he trusted his own process, traded back, collected additional assets, and still landed one of the best players in the draft class. Travis Hunter did not fall into Cleveland's lap by accident. That was a front office executing a plan it had already built before draft weekend arrived. Apply that same logic to this year's 6th overall pick. This draft class does not have an obvious slam-dunk offensive superstar waiting at the top of the board. There is no Ja'Marr Chase-level receiver demanding to be taken at 6. There is no guaranteed franchise offensive tackle that changes the calculus completely. Barry is almost certainly already on the phone, testing which teams are desperate enough to pay a premium to move into the top 6. Trading back to 10 or 12, collecting an extra third-round pick, and still landing a quality prospect like Monroe Freeling. That is the Barry formula, and it fits this board almost perfectly. There is a name that keeps disappearing from this conversation, and that disappearance is itself a piece of information. Dillon Gabriel was drafted in 2024, a selection that was heavily shaped by Kevin Stefanski's offensive staff. That entire coaching group is gone now. Gabriel is a quarterback who was brought in for a system that no longer exists, and he is currently being evaluated by a coaching staff that had absolutely nothing to do with selecting him. Todd Monken, the new offensive coordinator carrying real authority in that quarterback room, has been professional in every public comment, mentioning Gabriel in every quarterback conversation the media has pushed him into. But there is a meaningful difference between being mentioned and being prioritized. When the real buzz, the real headlines, and the genuine energy in a quarterback room is pointed entirely away from one player, that silence becomes its own kind of answer. Gabriel is still on the roster. He is still getting representatives, but the writing on the wall is becoming increasingly difficult to ignore from the outside. Barry was asked at the Combine if Cleveland had received any trade calls about their quarterbacks. His response was the classic front office line, "We always listen." That answer, "we always listen," is the most important thing Barry said about the quarterback room all off-season. It means nobody on that roster is untouchable. It means conversations are happening. And it means the player who has somehow managed to become invisible inside his own quarterback competition should probably be paying very close attention to how this draft unfolds. Strip away the family storyline entirely. Forget the live stream, forget the mute button, forget the social media narrative. The straight football argument for Shedeur Sanders in Cleveland still holds up on its own. What Shedeur showed at Colorado in 2024 was not a perfect product. It was not a finished quarterback ready to step in and immediately run a professional offense. What it was genuinely intriguing, real football IQ, real poise in difficult situations, real ability to process information and make decisions under pressure that most college quarterbacks at his age simply do not demonstrate. What he showed at Colorado in 2024, real flashes, real football IQ, real poise in difficult situations. Those qualities are not things you can manufacture in a training camp or purchase in free agency. They either exist in a quarterback or they do not, and in Shedeur, they exist. The financial dimension of this conversation is the part that front offices find most compelling. Cleveland is already locked into a massive contract at the quarterback position. Layering another expensive veteran deal on top of that existing commitment is not just impractical, it is fiscally reckless for a franchise trying to build a competitive roster around a difficult cap situation. Shedeur arrives as a young, affordable option. Low financial risk. Real developmental upside. Immediate internal competition. That is precisely the kind of roster construction move that intelligent front offices make when they are operating inside complicated financial constraints. Shedeur also grew up inside one of the most football-obsessed households in professional sports history. He has been coached at a high level for his entire life. That background shows up in the small moments, pre-snap reads, pocket adjustments, the ability to recognize what a defense is communicating before the ball is snapped. Those are not skills that develop quickly in professional settings. Shedeur arrives with a foundation that most rookie quarterbacks spend 2 or 3 years in the league trying to build from scratch. The Browns need someone who makes Deshaun Watson uncomfortable in the best possible way. Real competition makes quarterbacks better. A depth chart with no genuine threat produces comfort, and comfort produces stagnation. Bringing Shedeur into that room is not about humiliating Watson or engineering his departure. It is about creating the kind of internal pressure that forces everyone in the building to perform at a higher level. This is the section of the conversation that Cleveland would prefer to have quietly, behind closed doors, away from cameras and microphones. But the numbers are public, and the numbers tell a story that cannot be softened. Deshaun Watson is carrying approximately $46 million per year in fully guaranteed money through 2026. That contract does not move. That money does not disappear regardless of what happens on the field. And that financial reality sits underneath every single quarterback conversation the Browns organization has, whether they acknowledge it in press conferences or not. Cleveland is paying Deshaun Watson roughly $46 million per year in fully guaranteed money through 2026. The hard question that the front office is almost certainly wrestling with internally is whether they are quietly preparing for a future where Watson is not the long-term answer at the position. Because the moves Cleveland has been making, staying silent in free agency, keeping Shedeur's name alive in the public conversation, building additional draft capital through trade-back opportunities, those are not the organizational moves of a franchise that is fully confident and comfortable in its starting quarterback. Bringing Shedeur into Cleveland is not about benching Watson next September. It is about building a credible, real option for 2027 and beyond. It is about making sure the Browns are not standing on the wrong side of a historically expensive contract with absolutely nothing waiting behind it. Smart franchises build backup plans before the moment of crisis arrives, not after the situation has already collapsed. The trade-back scenario deserves its own focus breakdown because it is the move that ties everything else together. Cleveland sitting at pick 6 with no obvious generational superstar at the top of this draft board equals a prime trade-back opportunity, and Barry has already demonstrated he is not afraid to execute exactly that kind of deal. Moving from 6 to 10 or 12 still lands the Browns a legitimate starter-caliber prospect. Players like Mikael Williams, Luther Burden, or Kelvin Banks are all realistic targets at that range, while simultaneously stacking future picks. A third-round pick this year, potentially a second-round pick next year. Trading back to 10 or 12, grabbing an extra third-rounder, and still landing a quality prospect like Monroe Freeling, that is the Barry way. That is how you construct flexible rosters that can adapt when unexpected situations develop inside your building. The piece of this equation that rarely gets mentioned in the public conversation is what that additional draft capital means specifically for the quarterback position. Extra picks in hand mean Cleveland does not have to panic trade multiple first-round selections out of desperation if the quarterback situation reaches a breaking point. They would already have the ammunition to be aggressive from a position of organizational strength rather than organizational panic. The mute clip was funny. The Sanders family drama is legitimately entertaining television. But underneath all of it, a real football story is playing out in Cleveland, one that involves a front office executing a long-game strategy with quiet precision, a quarterback room carrying genuine uncertainty at every level, and a young player with real upside deliberately positioning himself for an opportunity that may be closer than most people realize. The actual question is not whether Shedeur Sanders has the ability to play in the NFL. The actual question is whether Cleveland is honest enough with itself to build seriously around the possibility that their $230 million investment may not be the long-term answer the organization originally hoped it would be. Browns fans, are you still riding with Deshaun Watson as your guy going into 2026? Or is it time for this organization to start seriously building the next chapter? Drop your take in the comments right now, and do not give a soft answer. If you want every NFL draft move, every quarterback update, and every behind-the-scenes story broken down before anyone else in the space covers it, hit that like button and subscribe right now. New videos drop every week, and you do not want to be the last one in the room to know what is actually happening.